An airline makes money when it sells you a seat, but that is not the only time the business gets paid. A Delta customer can be nowhere near an airport, buying coffee, groceries, or gas, and still be part of Delta's economics. Because in 2025, Delta said its remuneration from American Express reached $8.2 billion. That is not ticket revenue, and it is not pure profit. It is the cash side of a loyalty system built around miles, cards, status, lounges, and customer behavior. Banks buy miles because those miles make their credit cards more valuable. Airlines sell miles because those miles turn everyday spending into future travel. And passengers keep chasing a currency controlled by the airline. So to understand why airlines care so much about your credit card, we have to follow 1 mile, from the moment a bank buys it to the moment a passenger finally uses it. First, start with the obvious business. Airlines sell transportation. They buy or lease aircraft, hire crews, maintain fleets, pay airport fees, manage fuel, handle delays, and try to make thousands of flights work every day. It is a massive operation. But it is also a difficult one. A seat on a flight is perishable. If the plane leaves with that seat empty, the airline can never sell that moment again. Fuel prices move. Weather breaks schedules. Labor costs rise. Aircraft need maintenance. Airports charge fees. And even when demand is strong, the airline still has to carry the cost of running a physical network in the sky. That is why a customer relationship that continues after the flight is so valuable. A passenger might fly a few times a year, but that same passenger might use a credit card every day. And if that card is connected to an airline loyalty program, every ordinary purchase can become part of the airline's economics. Coffee, groceries, gas, restaurants, hotels. The airline is no longer only competing for the day you travel, it is competing for the card you choose, the points you chase, and the future trip you hope those points will buy. To see why that matters, we have to look at what an airline mile really is. To the passenger, a mile feels like a reward. It sits inside an account, waiting to become a future trip, an upgrade, a lounge visit, or another travel benefit. But to the airline, a mile is more than a reward. It is a product. Delta says customers can earn Sky Miles not only by flying, but also through participating companies. And to make those transactions possible, Delta sells miles to non-airline businesses and other airlines. That changes the meaning of a loyalty program. The airline is no longer simply giving points away after someone travels. It is selling a travel-related currency to partners who want access to the airline's customers, brand, and reward system. A bank does not buy miles because it wants to run an airline. It buys miles because miles make its card more valuable. A normal card can promise convenience, but an airline card can promise movement. It can turn a restaurant bill into progress toward a trip. It can turn grocery spending into a future flight. It can make a customer feel that every purchase is building towards something larger than the purchase itself. That promise helps the bank attract customers, and it helps the airline stay connected to the customer long after the flight is over. This is why the credit card matters so much. It is not only a payment tool, it is a loyalty machine. American Express describes its business around a membership model. Rewards, benefits, partner offers, travel services, lounge access, dining, entertainment, and lifestyle experiences designed to keep card members engaged. In that model, the airline is not just another merchant. It is a brand that gives the card emotional weight. For Delta, American Express can offer miles, travel benefits, and access to a larger travel ecosystem. For American Airlines, Citi became the exclusive issuer of the A-Advantage co-branded credit card portfolio in the United States, starting in 2026. For United, Chase cards connect everyday spending to mileage plus benefits and status progress. The pattern is the same. The bank gets a more attractive card. The airline gets a buyer for its miles and travel-related benefits. and the customer gets a reason to keep spending inside the system. The easiest way to understand this system is to follow the money. A customer uses an airline credit card to buy coffee, groceries, gas, or dinner. That purchase creates value for the bank. But to make the card attractive, the bank needs a reward that feels valuable. So the bank buys miles from the airline. Now the airline receives cash before the passenger has taken a flight. But the airline has also made a promise. At some point, those miles may become an award seat, an upgrade, a bag benefit, lounge access, or progress toward status. So the same mile has three meanings. For the bank, it is a reward that helps sell the card. For the passenger, it is a reason to keep spending. For the airline, it is both cash today and a future obligation. That is the strength of the model. And also the risk, because the system works best when everyone believes the currency still matters. The bank believes miles help attract customers. The passenger believes miles will lead to meaningful travel. And the airline believes the loyalty relationship will bring the customer back again and again. So the real business is not just the swipe, it is the loop. Spend, earn, redeem, return. A customer buys something on the ground, the bank buys miles, the airline receives cash. The passenger earns a future trip. And the next time that passenger thinks about travel, the airline is already inside the decision. This is not just a theory. You can see the pattern in the financial reports of the largest U.S. airlines. Start with Delta. In 2025, Delta said its remuneration from American Express grew 11% to $8.2 billion. That number does not mean every dollar is profit, but it does show the scale of the relationship. Delta's own reporting explains that SkyMiles members can earn miles through participating companies, and that Delta sells miles to non-airline businesses and other airlines. When Delta receives money through marketing agreements, including American Express, that money is allocated across things like award travel, baggage fee waivers, lounge access, priority boarding, and the use of Delta's brand. So the card is not just selling points, it is selling access to a travel ecosystem. Now look at American Airlines. American says its A-Advantage program and co-branded credit card programs are material assets of the business and have become increasingly important over time. In 2025, American received $6.2 billion in cash payments from co-branded credit card and other partners. American also explains that mileage credits sold to partners have both a transportation component and a marketing component. The transportation component is tied to future travel. The marketing component includes things like brand usage, access to member lists, advertising, and travel benefits. And American's most important mileage credit partner agreement is with Citi. That is why the American Citi deal matters. It is not just a card promotion. It is a long-term financial and customer relationship. Then there is United. In a 2020 investor presentation, United described Mileage Plus as a core asset with over 100 million total members and said the program generated about $5.3 billion in cash flows from sales in 2019. That was a crisis-era financing presentation, so it should not be treated as a current year snapshot. But it shows how seriously airlines value these programs. And in 2026, United was still emphasizing the same direction: winning brand-loyal customers, growing premium revenue, and growing loyalty revenue. 3 airlines, 3 different partnerships, but the same underlying pattern. The airline sells transportation, the loyalty program sells connection, and the credit card turns that connection into daily behavior. There is one detail that keeps this model honest. When an airline sells miles, it may receive cash today, but that does not mean every dollar becomes completed revenue immediately. Part of what the airline has sold belongs to the future. If a mile can later be redeemed for a flight, then the airline has made a promise. Someday, it may have to provide transportation, an upgrade, lounge access, or another benefit connected to that mile. That is why airline reports use terms like deferred revenue and loyalty program liability. The money can arrive before the flight, but the service may happen later, so the loyalty engine is powerful. But it is not magic. Miles can bring cash into the business before the passenger flies. They can help banks sell cards. They can keep customers inside the airline ecosystem. But they also create promises. And in this business, a promise can sit on the balance sheet long before it ever becomes a seat on a plane. The same system that makes loyalty programs powerful also makes them fragile. Because miles only work if people believe they still have value. If passengers feel that award seats are harder to find, that more miles are needed for the same trip, or that the rules can change without warning, the emotional value of the program starts to weaken. And when a loyalty program becomes this large, the risks are no longer limited to marketing. They become financial, they become regulatory, they become trust issues. In 2024, the U.S. Department of Transportation opened an inquiry into the rewards programs of the 4 largest U.S. airlines, looking at issues such as transparency, devaluation, hidden fees, and how easily consumers can use the rewards they have earned. That matters because airline miles are not just points on a screen anymore. For many customers, they influence which card to carry, which airline to fly, which status to chase, and where to spend money every day. For banks, they help justify card products and customer acquisition. For airlines, they support a relationship that can generate value far beyond the ticket. So if trust in the currency falls, the loop becomes weaker. And if card economics change or regulation affects fees, the airline does not just lose a marketing channel, it could lose one of the most important engines behind customer loyalty. At first, an airline credit card looks simple. Spend money, earn miles, take a trip later. But behind that simple promise is a much larger business model. The airline sells transportation. The bank sells a financial relationship. The loyalty program connects the two. And the customer becomes part of the system long before arriving at the airport. That is why airlines care so much about your credit card. Not because the card replaces the airplane, but because the card extends the airline's business beyond the airplane. A flight may last a few hours, but a loyalty relationship can last for years. So the real story is not that airlines stopped being airlines. The real story is that flying became only one part of a much larger economic loop. The flight moves you. The system keeps you. And next, we will look at another business where the product you see is only the beginning, why grocery stores are becoming advertising companies.